Hi, hello, my name is Revenge Zaya. Ooh, that's working pretty. Today we're basically going to be looking at a couple different things. First one we're going to be looking at is basic mouse calibration and how to go about changing that and what you should be looking for and the things that you should try to be doing in order to make your pointing speed and accuracy better in a first-person shooter game, specifically Valorant, but it can be applied to any first-person shooter game. A couple things I want to talk about before we get started there. The main one is if you don't have something like this, there are other ways to check this, but basically you're looking at your DPI and your polling rate. Polling rate is going to be printed somewhere on the box your mouse came in, or you can just look up your mouse hardware. They should be fairly common knowledge. Mine is multi-stage, so I can just hit a button and it will go faster and faster until it basically gets unusable. Anything above this is like pretty unusable. But realistically, I stay around these two are probably the ones that I use the most for different things. Another thing on mouse properties, you want to make sure all your acceleration is off. If you have Windows acceleration, enhanced, like whatever the fuck it's called, like precision, I think it's called, turn all that off. You don't need that. You want just raw mouse input because it's going to actually help you. Other than that, if your mouse has additional buttons, do make use of them. Like for example, mine's left click number 7, which is kind of a weird place to have it, but there's a reason it's there. Anyways, yeah, if you don't have access to that and if you don't know how to check your DPI, there are things online. This one, for example, you literally just like type in, let's say 400. Just follow instructions basically, whatever it is that tells you to do, and you click the button and you just kind of follow it. It tells you what your DPI is. It's not super accurate, but it's better than not knowing. And knowing that does help when you're changing your sensitivity and all that wonderful jazz. And now that that's been talked about, first thing I really want to sort of get into, and something that people don't really pay attention to, is warming up. And how you warm up is kind of up to you, but the purpose and point of warming up is you get an idea of how your mouse is behaving that day and how you're feeling and all that jazz. For example, I just play grid shot for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, depending on how long people take to get to where they're going. And it's actually really easy. Like literally all you're doing, I don't care about accuracy necessarily. I'm more interested in just target acquisition. So if I can get to the bubbles as fast as I can, that's usually what I'm going for. Because what you're warming up here is your small muscles, right? Your flick reflexes. Can you tell I haven't practiced there? There we go. You basically do that for like 5 minutes at a time, or until you run out of time and everybody shows up. And this is all fairly average. Don't pay attention to those numbers, just as long as you feel good about what you're doing, and if you see improvement. That's all that really matters. If you don't get better, you don't feel like you're getting better, and something needs to change, that's where we get more precise, right? So what I mean by that, hopefully Valorant opens pretty quickly here, but precision comes from two different things: getting familiar with the hardware and getting familiar with your aim sensitivity. So you can fuck around with your DPI, turn it up, turn it down, whatever you think you need to do. But at the end of the day, you also have to adjust your sensitivity in game. By default, every game that I know of, its default sensitivity is a 1-to-1, so it's going to be just a flat 1. And that doesn't really help anybody because a flat sensitivity on one game is not necessarily the same on another game. You see it in Killing Floor 2, you see it in Apex, you see it in CSGO, you see it in a little bit of Valorant, you see it in a couple other different games. That baseline is not necessarily accurate. Sometimes they accelerate it, sometimes they don't. Apex is known to just use raw input, so it's not accelerated, it's just what it is. CSGO will accelerate it, and I believe Killing Floor 2 will also accelerate it. So what that acceleration is, nobody really knows. I don't know off the top of my head, but it's pretty significant. You'll notice that you bounce around a lot more. But it's easy to fix, especially in a game like Valorant. Valorant has it, Apex has it to a certain degree. CSGO is a little bit more difficult, but it's definitely possible. I'm going to show you how to do that here in the range. I'll also show you a couple of different tips and tricks people don't actually realize is a thing in the game. And hopefully seeing it actually happen will kind of get that in your brain, and hopefully will start helping you understand why some of the things we do. Not just because it looks cool. I'll just play solo, it doesn't matter. First thing you want to do, actually it doesn't matter what gun you have. This thing right here, aim sensitivity. So what I like to do to practice, I don't necessarily have bots out here. What I'll do is I'll pick a point. Let's say let's pick something easy. Let's pick that point right there. I'll be off screen somewhere here, and then I kind of time myself how quickly I can get to that general location. If I go past it, it's fine in my book, because odds are I'll be shooting in that direction anyways, and I'm gonna get either on it or pretty damn close. Now if you're going past it one direction, you can actually slow down and turn your sensitivity down. That way you're getting on point faster and stopping there. I don't like doing that because I don't mind if I go over it a little bit, because it's fine realistically. Same thing for the other direction, right? So you pick a point, let's pick right there, and you're basically seeing how quickly you can get within this area from different directions, and that's basically a flick shot. So from here to here, for example, like how quickly can you get to these 2 points? That's basically what you're doing. And it makes sense because once you're actually in the game, the odds of somebody just turning around a corner and seeing you, and you don't see them, if they're over here and you're facing this direction, odds are you're only going to barely see them like out of the corner of your eye, and your ability to switch and turn to them is entirely dependent on how fast you are getting from here to here or wherever it is. The other thing I want to briefly talk about that people don't realize, people don't understand this, I hear it all the time. It's like, bro, how? The Vandal. Will absolutely laser you, because like it doesn't have recoil really if you pause in between each shot. Whereas if you're kind of doing this, you kind of see what the problem is, right? So what I'm saying is, don't just hold down left trigger and hope for the best. It's like, no, you want to control yourself. And hopefully you can see it on the virtual keyboard there, is I am actually pulling the mouse down and to the left whenever I'm firing. So that's sort of the spray pattern that it has. And odds are, once you figure that out, it's super easy. It applies to every gun. Just like don't hold down, you know, left click. Because like, yeah, you're gonna get down a lot of bullets and kind of this pattern. Not really hitting a whole lot half the time. Like 3 is the most you're gonna want. And the question is like, well, why only 3? That was 4, but you know, it's 150 damage. Right? Oh, and the other thing people don't realize, real quick. The Marshall hip fire, if you're not moving. Yeah. If you're not moving with the Marshall, you're kind of nutty. That's the only guns it works for. Everything else, good luck. But, you know. The only other thing we really want to talk about and why people choose the Vandal over the Phantom really is the damage fall off. The Vandal is always going to be 160 headshot, 40 body, and 30 legs. The Phantom drops pretty significantly. So it might shoot faster, realistically. But, you know, it's kind of sketchy. You know, that's why I've been getting better with the Vandal and learning it a little bit better. It is a little bit less accurate, basically. But, yeah. That's all we're doing and talking about here today. Oh, the only other thing I have to talk about is your crosshair. Realistically, it doesn't matter. Your crosshair is going to be whatever pattern you want it to be, whatever you want it to look like. The only suggestion I would have for you is to pick a color that doesn't bleed into backgrounds. So if you like the white, sure, but you can see the problem is it kind of fades off. Unless it's very dark, that whatever you're aiming at, unless it's super dark, it kind of fades off and it's really hard to see where it is. Same thing with like brighter colors. So green is pretty good, in my opinion. Some of these, you know, yellow kind of blends off. It has the same problem. It's super light. So on and so forth. You basically just pick the one you think looks best for you and that you can track easily, like at a distance. That's really what matters, is if you can hit it at a distance, you're fine, realistically. Other than that, though, just, you know, have fun. Understand and realize that it's a skill that you're going to develop over time. Don't expect to change a couple of settings and suddenly you're God. It might be you just got better aim adjustment now because you're not fighting your mouse all over the place to like keep on target.
Revealing area.
It can be that simple. Oh, that's just death over there, isn't it? But yeah, any other questions, comments, concerns about that in particular, let me know. This video will be split into multiple segments just to sort of help people understand and realize certain things. You'll notice some people are like, oh, but you know, FPS, and it's like, as long as you're hitting 60 at a minimum, you're fine. More than that, and you're putting yourself at an advantage, but not so much of an advantage that it's, you know, worth it. Especially if your monitor doesn't have that ability. You can't really, like, if your monitor can't handle more than 60 frames a second, probably shouldn't be fucking with it too much because you start getting other weird artifacts on screen and that can be distracting for some people. So, you know, don't do it unless you have a monitor that can handle over 60. Otherwise, 60 is fine. I kind of make fun of people who don't get 60, and that's fine, really. It really is. It's fine not to have 60 frames a second. Or to have a minimum of 60. And that's all it is, really. Just if you have that minimum, you're fine. Don't worry about it too much.